Going back to 1982, The Fixx on That Modern Rock Show with Red Skies at Night. And of course, you guys know The Fixx from their songs One Thing Leads to Another, Deeper and Deeper, Saved by Zero. Cy Curnin, lead singer of The Fixx, is still in the band. You know, The Fixx are still a going concern, but he's also got a solo record out called Solar Minimum, and he's coming to our area on Sunday, November 15th, next Sunday, at the City Winery in New York City. He's playing a show, and we're happy to have Cy Curnin with us tonight. And Cy, my first question's got to be, can you hear me?
I can indeed.
All right, then we're off to the races then. Well, Cy, it's great talking to you here. And where are you exactly right now?
Right now I'm in Wiltshire in England.
Well, it's not bad at all.
Not bad at all. It's a beautiful part of the world. Saxon, England. A lot of history. Full moon.
Would I be correct in saying that 2009 is technically the 30th anniversary of The Fixx?
Yeah. Yeah, technically we formed in 1979. That's correct, yeah.
Now, you originally, it was a different name, though, right?
Well, we were finishing up as the Portraits.
Right.
And then Jamie West Oram walked through the door when we were auditioning for a guitarist. And at that point, we knew a lot of things had changed. The sound of the band changed, and so did the name. And so we changed it to The Fixx, and here we are still 30 years later.
The Americas really took The Fixx to their heart. You know, you're sort of bigger in the Americas than maybe at home in the UK. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. I guess where we were as young men growing up in England, we felt that our voice was politically lost and was somewhat impotent at that point. And yet when we formed a band and we had we could put our thoughts through our music, the Americas seemed to have a bigger opportunity for us. There was alternative music. Alternative was starting to wake up, and MTV was in its early stages. Things were brewing, and we just seemed to connect with a vein that was growing through the culture over there. And for myself, being half French and half English, I never really felt English in England and never felt French in France. But when I came to America, I was like one of the great mixes.
Yeah, well, we're the ultimate melting pot.
Exactly. Well, I felt really at home with that, and I've often thought that a lot of my lyrics were looking for the own confusion of my own roots, connected with people that were searching for their roots too. And in the end, you have to define your own nationality from who you are, not where you've come from. And I think that's what America is. You wake up being an American, regardless of what your roots are.
True, true. And as you mentioned, the Fixx are still together and still going on, and you've managed to balance your solo career. This is your new album, Solar Minimum, is your third solo record, correct?
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
Right, you've managed to balance both, having the Fixx do new music, and then you're also doing new music. How do you determine which songs go where? Like, what works?
Well, I've often thought that my solo stuff is actually a precursor to writing Fixx material. It all has to come out of the same hole, as it were, and certain vulnerabilities close to home seem to fall into what I call my solo stuff, stuff that I think that when I present it in the band format, that's more of a worldly, more of a social platform, and I don't really want to, bore the guys with my pillow talk and my own vulnerabilities. So the solo stuff has, and as I've listened to quite a few artists who have done quite well with their own vulnerabilities, I've thought, well, why not? I might as well put some of this stuff out too, and it will give two sides to the same coin. And yet the Fixx gains strength from the fact that I can stay quite focused on what really brought the Fixx into the forefront, which was songs like Stand or Fall or One Thing Leads to Another, Red Skies at Night. We had more of a social platform, and we haven't really been as famous as we could have been in terms of the huge scheme of things. We never really became the U2 that we back then. We had the same chances, but I think we've stuck true to the real world. We haven't been dulled by too much excess, and there's a certain edge that we still feel that we're on the same side of the people that were listening to us there, and we haven't changed colors. feel very close to the way society goes, and I'm still looking for another revolution. I'm still looking for people to wake up, myself included, that politicians are put in place by the people, laws are written by judges to protect the people, but fundamentally they're voted in or by the people. And by the people fell asleep with the luxuries of the 80s, credit cards. Everyone fell asleep. We were duped. And now we're really realizing that the edge of life is to fight for reality. Take those luxuries away. There's day-to-day survival. And when you've got people just basically stealing the people's money with these government stimulus packages, well, that's what they called it, but it was just basically the biggest white-collar theft of all time. And I'm lucky enough to be in a vehicle where I can still sing about that, and I'm after those people.
You know, I don't know if you would agree with me or not on this, but it seems to me like, you know, there are various factions, right or left, and people vote these guys in, and as soon as they get in, it's the old boy network all over again. They don't represent the ideology that they were voted in to put into law.
They don't represent, they just sit in this soft club in the middle, which means fatten your own generation and your own lifestyle and take care of your own and take the money offshore. And yet the blue-collar people, the people that build the wealth of a nation, are robbed blind until something happens. I don't know what that something is, but I just feel that the bait of luxury has left the hook. And now what's going back at the hook is just dangling with no bait on it, and people are swimming around the hook and looking as to whose line that hook is on. And they're looking up from the bottom of the sea and seeing the bottom of the boat, and that boat is that club. And maybe at some point we'll rush up and capsize that drunken boat.
Is there something along the lines of what you're talking about now in the new album, Solar Minimum?
Solar Minimum has to do with the isolation that we've all felt, to me, when the news of how the system was falling apart and how it just was lying fractured around, and how things we believed in could suddenly become meaningless. And for me, that was the first foot forward, as I was saying earlier, to what the next Fixx record is that I wanted it to be kind of a rally point, a place where, at least if I feel I can say what I want because it's still the land of free speech. Mm-hmm. And if I could say what I feel in the world of music, then I can see what my fans are going to feel, what the Fixx fans are going to feel, and get a sense of security by the fact that we're not all stifled and worried just about the price of our, the value of our houses and everything else that we've been chained to. Life is more than just physical. That's interesting because you're so incredibly busy. You've got these upcoming shows, and then you're mentioning a new Fixx record, and you're also working with the Love, Hope, and Strength Foundation, and recently reached a peak in the very literal sense. We just summited Kilimanjaro with the Love, Hope, Strength team, which is a very interesting charity that I donate time for, and a few physical efforts, try and raise money to open a cancer center in every country that we visit. This giving seems to be the new getting. Mm. If you give something of your time and generate some kind of, well, I hate to use the word altruism because in rock and roll it seems a bit awry, but just doing something for someone else that you don't even know is quite rewarding. And a lot of people do that in very small ways, and one of the beautiful things about living in the West is that there is this giving back, but the ugly side of it is that it doesn't score any brownie points. It only seems to be when you have the greed badge on that you get any credit and you join that club.
Right.
and climbing mountains has become a passion. I didn't realize how geared I was, how my body was geared for climbing uphill. And it's been a very rewarding experience.
If someone wanted to find out information about how they can, help with the Love, Hope, and Strength Foundation, where exactly would they go?
lovehopestrength.org. It's a good site. It's a starting point. My life has been touched by cancer through loss of my grandfather, very close friends, my agent, producer of the last Fixx record, all died in the last couple of years to cancer, and I'm sure that a lot of people out there will or have been affected by this disease that is the science is gaining on it, and it's a disease that eventually we will control, but it's not going to come about through apathy, and I think we do have to sort of raise the bar as to, if you're just going to give money to the government just to build bombs, you might as well get a tax credit and give it to a charity that's going to try and build a cure.
We're going to play a song from your new record. Can you tell us a little bit about the song we're going to hear, which is In the Palm of Our Hands?
Well, I think where I was coming from at the time when I wrote that was that we've had great men telling us their visions of the way forward, and we've had collective, that view has permeated the population. Everyone felt that they were working for a greater cause. But during the last couple of decades, we got lost with greed, and this song kind of speaks to the fact of how close we had it to being good and how we sold out.
Cy, before I let you go, I have to ask you, when you're touring with the Fixx these days, do you notice younger people in the crowd or a mix of ages?
Well, I've noticed that the fans that we had in the early 80s are bringing their children to the show.
Right.
And that the fans from back then are still feeling some kind of loyalty or some benefit from following us around, and their children are seeing the benefit that their parents are feeling, and there's some collective. And that's a good sign. But it's good to know that people still have fertile minds.
Yeah.
If we can keep, sowing some fertilizer out there, that would be good.
Well, once again, November 15th, Cy will be throwing some fertilizer out at the City Winery.
Yeah, indeed. I call it spiritual striptease these days.
So make sure to get your spiritual kicks with Cy Curnin. Thanks so much for being on the show.
It was my pleasure, Dave. Really good talking to you. That was a good out for me.
All right. Thank you.